Welcome to these forums for the 2023 general election, which will be held on November 7th. I am Liz Kernitz-Thurlow of the League of Women Voters of Tacoma-Pierce County, and we're happy to be working again with TV Tacoma. The League of Women Voters of Tacoma-Pierce County wishes to acknowledge that we live on the ancestral lands of the Coast Salish peoples, surrounded by their traditional waters in the shadow of Mount Tahoma. We actively seek inclusive and respectful partnerships that honor Indigenous cultures, histories, identities, and current realities. The general election is Tuesday, November 7th. All votes must be in drop boxes or, if mailed, postmarked by 8 p.m. on November 7th. Our vote is our voice. Please use yours. In Tacoma, our general election ballot will have 4 council races. District 1, which has only one candidate, John Hines, so we will not be doing a forum. District 3, where the candidates are Jamaica Scott and Chris Van Vechten. At-large position 7, candidates are Olgi Diaz and Kristin Wynn. And at-large position 8, where the candidates are Christina Walker and Todd Brisky. The 2 at-large positions are being presented in one forum. As well, we have an election for position 3 on the Tacoma Civil Service Board, but no forum could be held. These are all 4-year terms. For Tacoma School District number 10, which has 6-year terms, positions 3 and 5 will be on your ballot. Position 3 has only one candidate, Corey Strozier, the incumbent, so no forum. For position 5, the candidates are Elizabeth Bonbright and Brianna Wolk. We also have Port of Tacoma elections this year. Port commissioners are elected for 4-year terms. Positions 3 and 5 are on your ballot. For position 3, the candidates are Deanna Keller and Jeannette Twitty. For position 5, the candidates are Kristin and Dave Bryant. Tacoma Metro Parks has 2 seats, which will be on our ballots. For position 4, Andrea Smith, the incumbent, is the sole candidate. For position 5, the candidates are Tony Anderson and Matt Maurer. We will do a forum for position 5. These are 6-year terms. If you're not yet a registered voter, you can register at the Pierce County Auditor's Office up to 8 p.m. on Election Day or at public libraries. If you do not receive your ballot in the mail, contact the Pierce County Elections Department. Thank you for watching and being an informed citizen. We encourage you also to read local news, check candidates' websites, etc. And after watching and thinking, please don't forget to vote. Election Day is November 7th. Thank you. Hello, welcome to this forum for candidates for the Port of Tacoma. 2 seats are up for election this year, position 3 and position 5. For position 3, the candidates are Deanna Keller and Jeannette Twitty. Jeannette Twitty is not participating in this forum. For position 5, the candidates are Kristin and Dave Bryant. These are 4-year terms. Welcome, candidates. The election is on November 7th. You should receive your voter's pamphlet and your ballot about 2 weeks before. If you don't or are not yet a registered voter, contact the Pierce County Elections Department. Candidates have received and agreed to our ground rules, which include not talking about their opponents or interrupting them. It might make it less exciting, but it's also much more fair and ensures that everybody gets the same amount of time. And all will answer the same questions. The order of answering will rotate, and the order of closing statements will be the reverse of opening statements. Susan Eidenschink, our league timekeeper, will let you know how much time you have remaining and when it is time to stop. Candidates each have up to 2 minutes to make an opening statement, up to 1 minute for closing, and whatever I give them in between. We will now have our opening statements. Deanna Keller, please.
Thank you very much. I'm Deanna Keller, President of the Port of Tacoma Commission, and I'm seeking re-election to position number 3. The Port is charged with economic development, job creation, and environmental stewardship. In the last 4 years, as part of the Commission, we have increased our shipbuilding activities. We have increased cars and military cargo. With jobs, we've provided, we've hired a consultant for DEI consulting so that we can both take a look within and also without with our practices. We've done workforce development, developed a strategic plan, a 5-year strategic plan for paid internships with focus on BIPOC communities and women, provided equipment, and partnered with Tacoma Public Schools. For environmental stewardship, we have lowered our goals, or increased our goals basically, from 2050 to 2040. We've put shore power into our marine cargo areas, and we've changed Lower Wapato Creek from a ditch to a meandering stream again, and worked with the Puyallup Tribe of Indians doing that. We're currently working on the Arkema site to put that into productive use as well. We received a Phoenix Award specifically for turning brown fields into productive use, and that was also part of that Lower Wapato Creek area. I'm seeking 4 more years because I still have lots of work to do, and we'll get into that as we go into more further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristin.
Hi, I'm Kristin. It's been an honor to serve as your Port Commissioner number 5, serving all of Pierce County. I'm a Filipino-American business attorney with a background in international legal affairs and a longtime resident of Gig Harbor in Tacoma. I'm also a state policy director for Faith Action Network, a multi-faith partnership striving for just, sustainable, and compassionate communities. I serve on the Economic Development Board of Puget Sound Regional Council and on the Washington Council of International Trade, where I advocate for better trade policies to benefit our communities and local businesses. I also volunteer with many of our local community and civic organizations like Rotary 8 and Greater Tacoma Community Foundation. Our ports is in a stronger position now than it was 4 years ago, and we're delivering greater benefits to Pierce County residents. I'm asking for your vote to continue this work and expand on our gains in fiscal responsibility, environmental stewardship, and driving economic growth. During my term, we decreased the port tax levy rate for Pierce County taxpayers and decreased port debt. Coupled with streamlined efficiencies, we've increased investments to expand port capacity and modernize our terminals, fiscal sustainability that has upgraded our bond rating. Our port has received national awards for environmental stewardship, and have been recognized by Communities for a Healthy Bay for their Clean Water Hero Award. We've invested in shore power to reduce air pollution, cleaned up contaminated lands, restored habitat, and reducing underwater vessel noise for orcas. We're working to make the Port of Tacoma a clean energy hub to lead the industry towards achieving net zero emissions. This includes creating the Zero Emission Truck Collaborative, electrifying our harbors, and exploring opportunities in offshore wind and green hydrogen. And by partnering with our schools to create the 253 Maritime Skills Center, we're expanding student career pathway opportunities. We're also collaborating with the Puyallup Tribe of Indians to build a new terminal and habitat restoration, building trust and job opportunities for our entire community. And I ask for your vote to continue this impactful work and further advance our port's goals in sustainability, collaboration, and economic prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Bryant, please.
Hello, I'm Dave Bryant, running for Port of Tacoma Commissioner, position 5. I'm bringing 2 parts of experience that are missing in the current Port of Tacoma as well as the Northwest Seaport Alliance. The first is from the Navy. I have 27 years in the Navy. Was commanding officer of 2 large ships in the Navy, including a nuclear aircraft carrier, and I've taken those ships around the world into foreign ports, so I understand what those big ships down in the port need. The other area is in developing and fielding new advanced technology, especially enhancing businesses through lean processes. Those are directly applicable to things that are lacking in the port right now. First is retaining and growing the market share that we've lost over the last 7 to 8 years in the Port of Tacoma. The second is in improving efficiency of those trucks and trains that a lot of you see backed up, waiting in the port to try to pick up their loads. Lean processes, lean principles can completely eliminate that, bring a 3-hour delayed trip down to 1 hour. And the third is in leading the efforts that require advanced technology for improved fuel systems, propulsion systems for the ships, trucks, and trains that all support our port. I'm Dave Bryant, running for Port of Tacoma Commissioner, position 5.
Thank you. Thank you all. Now we move on to questions, and Kristin Ang will answer the first question first. The defined role of the port is economic development. How will you have, or how have you balanced that with the desires of the neighboring community, the needs for clean water and air, and coordinating with the city and the Puyallup tribe? Up to 2 minutes.
I thank you for that question. First, I'd like to say we can no longer sacrifice the health of our community and our environment. We are a quarter into the 21st century. Environment and economic development are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they are now one. We have to address climate change and sea level rise, which risks the viability of our port. So if we do not address environmental issues, we will not be productive and we will not be profitable. And when it comes to relationships, in order to be a greater, more inclusive, greener, more profitable economic engine of Pierce County, we do have to collaborate with the Puyallup tribe of Indians. And it is an honor to do so, and it makes us better. In fact, they help us with our break bulk cargo we lease from them, and we're also in talks of building a new terminal, and we have collaborated in restoring habitat, the Lower Wapato Creek project that has fish passages, thousands of trees. And this is what it takes to move our community and benefit all of us, is working together. And it is about, I would say, reducing our emissions, reducing our pollution, cleaning up the contaminated lands. In fact, we're trying to move away from a toxic legacy of Superfund sites, and we are accelerating the cleanup of contaminated lands so we can put it back to good use. It's not only just and right, but it actually makes economic sense. For every dollar that we invest, we get $7 back in productive economic use, and this means jobs. The clean energy transition is here, and the Port of Tacoma is ground zero for it, and we should be leaders. And this will bring prosperity to all of Pierce County, our entire state, if not our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Bryant.
Thank you. The reason for the port is economic development, but economic development requires being a good community member. We all want to have clean water, clean air, and there are problems down in the port area that are historic, damage to lands and the seawater environment in the area that are being cleaned up. The near term, there are things being done that are directly controlled by the port. That is on the order of 3% of the emissions down in the port area. 97% are the areas that are not controlled by the port. The ships that come in, that are owned obviously by other people in other countries, the trucks and trains that come in that are owned by multiple different agencies. We need to be influencing that. We need to be bringing in new technology methods, new scheduling methods, improving that environment in the area to make our port the best port in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Deanna Keller.
Thank you. I like to think of decisions that are made for economic development by commissioners, and I've heard this in several sources, especially with other governmental entities, and it's the 3 Ps, which is people, profit, and also planet. So with people, we're taking a look at job creation. With profit, we're taking a look at the profitability so that we can be able to give back to our community and put things into infrastructure, environmental achievements and things like that. And then also planet, which is environmental stewardship. We need to also take a look at highest and best use of land, water-dependent areas, what are the best uses of that particular land. We need to also make sure that we are, again, cleaning up and putting lands back into productive use. You also heard from other candidates that talking about in partnership with our community. What we did was we had a 5-year strategic plan. We had 40,000 responses from our constituents as to what they want from the port. So we had a good indication. All the commissioners took a look at each of those responses, and they asked for shipbuilding to be brought back. They talked about partnerships with the Puyallup tribe. They talked about all kinds of things like that, it's important to get our community's input to that as well. We also need to take a look at the strategic plans of what the city of Tacoma also wants, that we blend that in as well, that we need to collaborate and be in partnership with that. They have a green economy initiative, and we have had conversations about what we need to do. Would like to be able to see work study sessions with our city council so that we can work together for the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you. All very interesting. Dave Bryant will be first. Do relations with the tribe, the city, and the county need to be strengthened or changed? And if so, how? And how will you be a part of any change? Up to 90 seconds, please.
Thank you. Relations with the community is something that we are always working on, including relations with the tribe. Relations have improved. I think they were probably a low point 4 years ago. Those things have improved. The tribe is now operating as a member of the port with their own lands. And I think that is very, very important to treat them as a ongoing partner, as well as working with the city of Tacoma and the rest of Pierce County. The port belongs to everyone in Pierce County, and we need to make sure that we are doing the right things for our citizens that are paying for and own our port. We're there to represent the port, represent you as citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Deanna Keller.
Thank you. I think there was an article on the Tacoma Weekly where several of us were talked to or asked questions about myself, I believe Marty Campbell, and John Hines, and we talked about, and it had to do with West Rock, and it had to do with talking about what we need to do to bring more commerce here into this area. And it came out very clearly that we all said we need to work together with workforce development, we need to work with the Puyallup Tribe of Indians, we need to get together with Pierce County Council, City of Tacoma Council. We had our very first work study session with Pierce County Council, with the Port of Tacoma. I believe in collaboration, because if we're all working together, then we can get the best bang out of the buck for our public, and collaboration is the key. It gets us there faster. And if you can think about Pierce County, especially with all of our electeds working together, we are a very powerful voice in Olympia and also in Washington, D.C., and to benefit our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristin Eng.
I believe that collaboration is key to the success of our region. I am proud about the historical endorsement of the Puyallup tribe of my campaign in both times, but I don't take that for granted, because relationships are ongoing, and you develop them and you strengthen them every time, every year, every day. I would say that I am on the Puyallup Tribe Liaison Committee, as well as the Port of Tacoma during this past 4 years has reached out to our community. We have done joint meetings with, as Commissioner Keller said, Pierce County Council to discuss about how we're going to address climate change, what we've been doing. We've also had joint meetings with the city of Fife to talk about major transportation projects and homelessness, and leading to the Port of Tacoma funding their jobs program, which houses and has job training for those experiencing homelessness for about a year. We also are part part of the Pierce County Climate Convening, which is all the local governments talking about how we're going to address climate change, the resiliency, what we need to do to make our communities prosper and able to I would say, just be resilient towards climate change. We've also collaborated with Tacoma Public Schools in creating the Maritime 253 Skill Center that will serve students in the entire region. We're also part, Commissioner Keller and I, of the Joint Municipal Action Committee, a gathering of elected officials, and we're collaborating and informing each other on how best to serve our community. So, like I said, collaboration is key, and the Port of Tacoma is very actively engaged in this. Thank you.
Thank you. Deanna Keller will answer the next question first. How important is it for the port to make meaningful progress to address the climate crisis? What is being done and what needs to be done? Up to 90 seconds.
Thank you. Very important question. And I think that in talking with Pierce County Council, when they're working on their climate change initiatives, they also talked about most of the initiatives take a look at the Port of Tacoma because of the industrialization there. We have, transportation with trucking, we have shipping. Some of those things are out of our control, but a lot of that can be done with providing infrastructure. We're providing shore power. We lowered our zero emission goals from 2050 to 2040. We have a clean truck initiative. We have a truck collaborative where we're talking with our partners on and taking a look at getting low-cost loans for some of these people to go from diesel to electric vehicles. A lot of them are first-generation Americans and can't necessarily afford that, so whatever we can do to help them. Again, it's not within our control, to tell them to do that, but we can certainly partner with them to do that. We're working with JBLM in the city of Tacoma. We'll be taking a look at sea level rise initiatives and what we need to do to mitigate that. I believe that JBLM has hired a third-party consultant to do that, and the Northwest Seaport Alliance is coming in to also work with them to develop some plans to mitigate that for the port. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristin.
I have always believed the port should be a leader in addressing climate change in our region, and we have done so. And we will continue to make the investments to reduce pollution and emissions, as well as protect our port and workers from sea level rise and potential climate exacerbated hazards. We are actually the most at risk. We're situated in the tide flats. And we will continue to electrify our harbors, invest in shore power, zero emission cargo handling equipment, and EV infrastructure. As a large port, we can advocate on the local, national, and even international level to promote sustainability and address climate change. And this includes supporting legislation related to emission reductions, renewable energy, and green transportation. We can also work with stakeholders to create a coordinated approach to reduce emissions throughout the supply chain. And one of the ways we have done this is the Zero Emission Truck Collaborative, which is gathering the stakeholders who will be very much affected. And that would include industry, truckers, environmental orgs, and tribes. So we can chart the path towards zero emission and make sure that it is equitable. We're also part of a study, a U.S. Commerce study with regards to green corridors, a port between U.S. and Asia, our gateway, and Korea, to make sure that we can have a zero emission corridor to see what's possible. Because the only way for us to address climate change as a port is having an ecosystem. We need the infrastructure to make this possible, and we want to be part of that solution and lead it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Bryant.
There are international efforts that are underway going for new propulsion systems, new fuel systems. We need to evaluate those. We need to be working with them, people hand in hand, to build the ships, to order the new ships, to make sure that we are going in the right direction. We need to work with our national and state lawmakers to make sure that we are doing the right environmental controls, the right environmental laws, to push, again, a practical solution, the right technological solution that has affordability in mind for those ships, trucks, and trains. If we don't, we then will either drive truckers that are local here, especially the independents, out of business. We'll have the shipbuilders ignore what we're saying, because it's not affordable, it's not right for their business. And are big affordability factors. The technological changes need to be evaluated, and you need to have someone that understands the energy technology that's behind it all so that we take the right steps, great positive steps forward in improving our environment. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will be answered by Kristin Ang first. You have up to 90 seconds. We have a huge housing and homelessness crisis. Does the port own or manage any land which could be used for services? How should the port be involved in helping to mitigate this? Housing, shelter sites, jobs, anything else?
Thank you for that question. We all know that we're in a housing crisis, a housing affordability crisis. There's not enough housing, and everyone is worried. Usually, housing is not in the lane of ports. However, we know we're part of economic development, we're part of our community, and we do want to be part of the solution. That is why we did support some funding for the City of Fife's job program, which provides housing and job training for a year to those experiencing homelessness. With regards to our industrial lands, we do not recommend housing to be on industrial lands, and there are reasons for that. They should not be on the tide flats, because that is where industry and manufacturing and our port operations should be. However, I am open to see where we can support workforce housing outside of the tide flats and where we can be part of the solution. Now, this is an ongoing conversation, but since there is a crisis, I would say our port is going to be active in looking for some solutions and being part of the solutions with our community and ways that we can advocate for better housing legislation that makes sense for our region. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Bryant.
I think the Port of Tacoma, especially the Port of Tacoma commissioners, need to take this on with a strategic plan, just like there's a strategic plan for business operations in the area. As Kristin Ang had just said, the area down in the tide flats where the port is a area of heavy industry, and people that are not working in that area with the proper safety precautions should not be living and walking around. So it is not a residential area, and the immediate surrounding, the buffers around that are very important to prevent the housing from encroaching on that industrial area. There can be other areas, though. The port is not just limited to the tide flats. There are other areas if those are part of the strategic plan. But the most important way to fix homelessness is jobs. And that's what the port is there for, as a job generator, big part of the economy, and we should be working on that and growing and increasing the jobs so that people have living wages, family wage jobs, so they can afford the houses in commuting range of the Port of Tacoma. Thank you.
Thank you. Deanna Keller.
Thank you. Many of our constituents have told us that on the tide flats, it's not appropriate to have any sort of housing. For instance, the Northwest Detention Center, we have a lot of concerned citizens about people being housed down there. It's a 24/7 working industrial land. But however, even though it doesn't seem like it's within our lane to do this, we cannot ignore it. We can't kick the can down the road. So I sponsored an initiative, a resolution to say that we don't believe that it's appropriate for people to be housed, homeless folks to be housed on the tide flats. But however, we asked our staff, what can we do? So the commission did approve a $72,000 grant to the City of Fife for their job program, where they are sheltering people, they are weaning them off of fentanyl and other sorts of drugs, and they have caseworkers, and they are providing jobs for them in the parks. Because of the workforce development piece of that, it's absolutely appropriate to have our hands on that, and we can do more grant funding for that because of that resolution that was passed by the commission. So we're very happy and proud to do that. Both Commissioner Ang and I went to go tour that site, and we're very impressed with the work that they've done.
Great. Thank you. This is going to be a quick question. Dave Bryant is first, 45 seconds. I'm sure in your opening and closing statements you tell us why you should be a port commissioner. But specifically, what to you is the most important role you can play as a Port Commissioner? Microphone.
Thank you. So the reason that I'm running as Port Commissioner is I have a lot of experience that's directly applicable, and this is, in my consideration, the best way that I can pay back to my community by providing that expertise to the port and the decisions that are in the port. It is very, very important, if we are going to be the right kind of port, to bring in experience in ships out at sea. And that's probably my strongest experience, especially having driven a 100,000-ton ship around the world. So I think those are very, very important things, and it broadens out the expertise that's in the set of 5 commissioners and 10 total for the Northwest Seaport Alliance that currently lack any seagoing experience.
Thank you. Deanna Keller.
Thank you. My first year as a port commissioner, listening to our constituents, I had understood that our port was very insulated from the rest of the community, that they felt that there wasn't enough access. Obviously, the Port of Tacoma is charged with economic development and job creation, environmental stewardship, but through the Joint Municipal Action Committee that I've been on and listening to other municipal governments, the port has done, can do, and has done quite a bit to branch out in workforce development. As you heard about, the homeless situation with 5, the shelters. So there are a lot of things that the Port of Tacoma Commission can do, and I believe that we've made great gains with reaching out to our community and giving greater access to our port, and I want to continue doing that.
Thank you. Kristin Eng.
Sure. Well, I think it's been an honor to serve as your port commissioner, and I'm committed, and I felt like I've given my life for this port. And it is about making the port more inclusive and connected to all of our community. This is the people's port. I've always wanted more jobs, more quality jobs, and be the leader, the port to be a leader in the clean energy transition, to be that clean transportation hub, as well as heal that relationship between the Puyallup tribe of Indians and the port, because it has had that 100 years of history and even more. And I think that when we finally come together and collaborate, that is the key to unlocking the prosperity and health of our community. And that's worth, giving your life to.
Thank you. So you've all said that we can't put housing in the tide flats, and we know that. But are there lands in the tide flats controlled by the port which could or should be used for other purposes? And if so, what? Or does the port need to expand? 1 minute, Deanna Keller's first.
Thank you. That's an interesting question. Thank you for asking that. We have taken a look at other, again, as I had said before, that we take a look at the highest and best use of lands, and especially because we are stewards of our public lands, we need to make sure that we continue to fulfill our mission and our vision, which is economic development and job creation. I think that there are other ports in Washington State that are charged with different things that their community wants. We have an international shipping port. I believe that there are a lot of things that we need to take a look at. We have a strategic plan, and we need to have those conversations. But I really like that question. That's something that I'm going to have to spend some time pondering. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristin Eng. Sure. Are there lands in the tide flats controlled by the port which could or should be used for other purposes? If so, what? Or does the port need to expand?
The primary, I would say, we're economic development, and our primary, I would say, business is marine cargo operations. But we do own land beyond that, and we are looking to diversify. First of all, we are investing in workforce development, as Commissioner Keller has stated, and we also are collaborating with Tacoma Public Schools on creation of the Maritime Blue 253 Skill Center, a campus that will be accessible to the public. And we're redeveloping that land across the Foss Waterway. We're also supporting the Maritime Blue initiative. That's entrepreneurship in the South Sound Blue economy. We're also looking at redeveloping the early business center for the highest and best use, and such as advanced manufacturing, ship and boat building repair, maritime educational and training, maritime support services and technology, offshore wind support. We've heard of cross-laminated timber. So right now, I would say that the Port of Tacoma is looking at all opportunities that could be in the tide flats and even beyond. But of course, we will take a look at the lands we have first, but that doesn't mean we're not going to look beyond that. So thank you.
Thank you. Dave Bryant.
The area of the port is directly applicable or accessible from the bay, Commencement Bay, and that's one of the real strengths, and that's why those lands were set aside specifically for the Port of Tacoma. There are adjacent things. Shipbuilding has been brought up. The Port of Tacoma area used to be a huge shipbuilding area. There were hundreds of escort aircraft carriers made in the Port of Tacoma in World War II, and we've completely dropped that capability. Those additional businesses, those adjacent businesses, I think are very important for us to investigate and keep growing the jobs and the breadth and diversity of jobs in the port. And again, that's the reason for the port. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Kristin Ang will answer this one first. How important or beneficial is the alliance with the Port of Seattle? Should it be changed, strengthened? Are there downsides to it? 60 seconds.
I would say that our relationship is beneficial to our entire region, Pierce County, and including the state. You know, as Vice President of the Seaport Alliance, and I'm proud of our collaboration between our ports and working to benefit the entire Puget Sound region. And back in 2015, it was formed because we wanted to be competitive. There was the widening of the Panama Canal, and we needed to adjust and adapt to the changing global economy. And together, we've been successful in upgrading our terminals, making new terminals, in fact, as well as our advocacy. We will finally have a better share of the harbor maintenance tax, and we have been able to get grants. We have been much more aggressive in our grants for off-dock yards, for our environment. Together, we have been stronger in environmental leadership. We are now advocating at the international level. We are part of the Green Corridor studies, and we have set targets 2050, 2040. And that was possible because you need to collaborate with the other port in your area. The two largest ports needed to work together and not compete to the bottom. And we are working together actually quite well for our region. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Bryant.
The reason for the Northwest Seaport Alliance still exists and is still good. It brings the two ports together that are very close and actually linked very well together, share assets very well together. Makes the port together, the two ports together, a larger entity in order to compete with other ports, especially the Canadian ports. I think that's very, very important that we continue with it, but like any joint venture like this, we need to make sure that we are still supporting the people of Pierce County for the Port of Tacoma and the people of King County and providing the right return for their investment. I think after 7 years, there needs to be an audit of what's being done, the lands and the facilities are being contributed by both to make sure that it's still a fair deal for our citizens in Pierce County as well as the citizens of King County. Thank you.
Thank you. Deanna Keller.
Thank you. The Northwest Seaport Alliance is the largest customer and income generator for the Port of Tacoma. It's extremely important for us. I think one of the most important things about the Seaport Alliance is it is a separate, complex joint venture business partnership. It actually is a separate public enterprise business that manages the shipping terminals in both ports, in which the Port of Seattle and the Port of Tacoma purchased equity shares by doing a valuation of the income-producing abilities of their properties. Each commission quorum has a quorum with one vote. All income earned by those property goes to the Northwest Seaport Alliance, and all capital expenditures are paid by an agreement of commissions from the Northwest Seaport Alliance and both commissions. The important thing about the Seaport Alliance is while they are managing the marine cargo operations, it allows the Port of Tacoma to reach the Port of Tacoma Commission to even more directly reach into our community and figure out, spend our time figuring out what we can do to help support our community while they're managing the marine cargo. The net profits are divided equally among by each home port, or Seattle and Tacoma, and so I believe that we have control over it, as each of the commissions do. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Bryant will be first, 1 minute. The port is separate from the city of Tacoma, but is in it. Are there other ways the port can or should help the city economically, financially, socially, or any other way?
Interesting question. One, the Port of Tacoma is there right adjacent, and a big part of it is inside of the city of Tacoma. The two work together very closely. It's hard if you're on the city of Tacoma from any of the buildings not to look down on the port and see the huge port that is the Port of Tacoma. So it is definitely a part of the city of Tacoma's economy. A lot of the jobs come from there. A lot of the exports that come from the port go to there. So I do think it is an integral part of the economy. The other part is bringing in the workforce, the future workforce education of students in Tacoma. And I think the Maritime Skills Center is a great move in that effort to bring the two together so that the council, the school organization for Tacoma works directly with the port to manage that facility. Thank you.
Thank you. Deanna Keller.
Thank you. Our municipal government, the city of Tacoma, the council members grapple with very difficult issues: homelessness, infrastructure, all kinds of things, housing. We need to be their strength in terms of economic development. We need to collaborate together. We've done that with Joint Municipal Action Committee, trying to figure out how we can help support each other. We want to come to our city council members and say, we are your economic developers. We are here to help you, and we're going to work with you in whatever way possible. I believe that we've scheduled our very first city council and Port of Tacoma Commission work study session so that we can start those discussions. But I think that throughout the world, the ports, some of the ports are part of the municipal government, and we need to work more strongly together. Just because we are separate governments doesn't mean we have to act like that.
Thank you. Kristin Eng.
Economic development. That is what we can do for the city of Tacoma, and that's always what we've been charged with, which is job creation, quality jobs, bringing businesses and investments to Tacoma, connecting our local businesses, our community, our students to the world, because we are an international port city. If you look up Wikipedia and you see City of Tacoma, that's what it's described as, and I think sometimes people forget that. And I would say, when it comes to addressing climate change, that's where the port takes a role. If you take a look at the City of Tacoma's climate plan, most of the money that will be spent is at the port. So the port is leading in that. And that's what we can do for our community, is lead that clean energy transition, be that green energy hub, reduce emissions, clean up our contaminated lands, bring it back to good use. And I would say workforce development, working with our Tacoma Public Schools and our other schools in the local area with that Maritime 253 Skill Center and other educational opportunities, as well as with our other schools, so we can serve the entire Pierce County. So that's what we can do for the city of Tacoma as well as the rest of Pierce County. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Deanna Keller is first. You got 60 seconds. Are there ways to get rid of or reuse all of the many, many empty shipping containers littering the area? Your ideas and suggestions, please.
Yes, I think that's a very difficult thing that we've had to grapple with. We actually talked to our federal partners with the USDA. They created a program where they will give $100 per container to deal with the drayage or the moving of those containers, because every time you move a container, it costs money, and the end user is obviously the consumer, and they end up having to pay for that. So the federal government has come in to help with that. So we have created some very innovative ways to do that. We need to get those empty containers to Eastern Washington, to our agricultural folks out there. It's not a highly populated area, so that's why a lot of times those shipping containers sit for a long period of time, because it costs money to move it, but they need that. So we need more programs like the USDA program, and it was great to have them do that. So we're continuing to look for ways to manage that. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristin Eng.
I think there may be two different ways we're looking at empty containers and shipping empty containers, because when they're shipped here, everyone wants the imports, because the shippers make a lot of money. The exports actually cost less. And a lot of times they will sometimes during the pandemic ship it back to Asia empty because they want to get it back here. And as Commissioner Keller was saying, we were trying to incentivize these shippers along with our federal agencies to ship our agricultural goods, because we are an agricultural state. It's actually one of our top, we are considered an ag port, one of the top ag ports in the country, number one, number two, top. But when you're talking about, I think, what are we gonna do with containers that no one wants anymore for their shipping? I mean, I've seen housing, I've seen other things, but when we think of empties, we want those to be in productive use for marine cargo operations. And we haven't seen them not being in use because we want them in use, but I think maybe sometimes our community will say, well, why don't you use them for housing? And that's a little bit expensive, actually, to use it for those particular purposes. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Bryant.
Looking at it from a different perspective, we need to look at the root cause for why all this is happening, and it's really because we have a imbalanced import-export in the United States in general, and the Northwest specifically. We import a lot more than we export, and we need to change that. Agriculture is one item that we can provide a lot of different areas, but also bringing in, encouraging other jobs so that we start having production jobs and things that we can ship to the Western Pacific. So we're not just sending back empty containers and stacking them up in the port, costing extra money that again goes to the consumer. We get a big bang return if we have production jobs return that give us export goods. Thank you.
Thank you. This will be the last question. Kristin Eng will answer it first. Looking ahead 20 years, what is your vision for the port, the tide flats, and the city? 60 seconds.
As some of you may already know, that I do believe our port has the leadership role to play in the clean energy transition, to be that clean transportation hub that influences industry, that works with industry, tribes, the environment, and our community. If you take a look at what we're working on right now, the redevelopment of the other side of the Foss Waterway, a 253 Maritime Skills Center, open access to the public, working with the Puyallup Tribe and Indians on a new terminal, redeveloping the early business center for advanced manufacturing, boat shipbuilding, cross-laminated timber, somebody even brought that up. But we are looking at sustainable industry, connecting our communities to the port so that they feel that this is their port and they want to be part of it. And I believe this will lead to a thriving community, and it will move us away from what once people thought is the Tacoma aroma. This is a new time for the Port of Tacoma, and I'm excited for the challenges and opportunities that are coming our way. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Bryant.
20 plus years ago, Commencement Bay was contaminated with a lot of the effluent, both from our waterways, runoff going down into the rivers that feed the port, but also from the ships that come into the area. A lot of that has changed going down to the Tacoma waterfront, you can see people down there kayaking on the water, and it's not like they're running through a pile of muck down in a contaminated bay. But that bay still needs a lot to be cleaned up. There's a lot more work to be done, making the atmosphere better so that the people surrounding the Port of Tacoma do not have to be breathing in the smog that's put out by the trucks and trains and the ships in the port. I think that's very, very important. And we can have the vision for an incredibly clean commencement bay that I would like to see 20 years from now. Thank you.
Thank you. Deanna Keller.
Great, thank you. In 2019, when I ran for office, and I think I had mentioned this before, I heard quite a bit when I was on the campaign trail from our constituents about the fact that they didn't feel that they had access to the port. They didn't feel that the port communicated with them. A lot of people felt that they lived around the port and didn't have, especially our minority communities and underserved communities, didn't have access to these wonderful high-paying jobs. And I think that it has changed incredibly in the last 4 years. I've heard more from constituents how proud they are. You've heard a little bit from other candidates about the environment. They feel more connected with the port than they ever did. I attended the bus tours and talked with constituents. We even had a constituent talk to the News Tribune about resurrecting some sort of a statue to talk about the port, how proud we are of the port. We've made great gains. I want to continue to make great gains in that, with environmental stewardship, with making our community proud. And I want to make sure that we're those kind of elected leaders that is going to make sure that the Port of Tacoma is a leader in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here and answering our questions. We all know more about the workings of the port now. And now we move to closing statements. As stated earlier, each will have up to 1 minute, and the order will reverse from the opening statements. So Dave Bryant will give the first closing statement.
Thank you. To close, my purpose for running is to bring the expertise that I have to broaden the expertise base of the overall Port of Tacoma commissioners, as well as the commissioners for the Northwest Seaport Alliance. The real reason for the port is to support the ships that come in, the import-export business that are the lifeblood of this community, Tacoma and Pierce County, as well as the whole Northwest. We need to have someone that understands ships, understands the needs of the ships, working on the commission to make sure that we have a future so that we can regain market share by making our port more competitive, improve efficiency of the trucks and trains in the port, as well as leading the efforts for propulsion systems as we go towards a greener future. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristin Eng.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I'm Kristin Eng, and I'm running for re-election for Port of Tacoma Commissioner number 5, serving all of Pierce County. When I ran 4 years ago, I promised to restore community trust, expand economic opportunities, tackle environmental challenges, collaborate with the Puyallup Tribe Indians in our schools. And those promises are fulfilled. I believe that the Port of Tacoma can pave the way for more family wage jobs, a cleaner environment, and thriving communities. For the next 4 years, I'll work on increasing the competitiveness and resiliency of our gateway, addressing supply chain challenges, pursuing new economic opportunities, reducing pollution, redeveloping land for port operations, and the new Maritime 253 campus. They say if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that is why projects and progress are done at the speed of trust. And I'm thankful for the trust and endorsement of ILW 23 Longshore Dock Workers, Pierce County Central Labor, Pacific Merchant Shipping Association, Puyallup Tribe of Indians, environmental orgs, community leaders, and elected officials. It's been an honor to serve you as Port of Tacoma Commissioner, and I hope to earn your trust and continued support. So together we can do better for our community and county. Thank you.
Thank you. Deanna Keller.
Thank you. I'm seeking re-election for another 4 years because there's still much more work to be done. I have a passion and a vision for this work. My community has given me so much. I want to give back to my community. Some of the work that I especially want to do is getting our marine cargo business back from the East Coast. I want to address sea level rise. I want to develop an incident response team. You heard about the Trident Seaport boat fire, and I want to work with our fire department so that we give them the tools and the abilities and the training to be able to work together. The port needs to be a leader in this. We want to vacate streets and put them back into productive use. We want to keep pressure on WashDOT and our legislature and our federal government for transportation projects. And I am a proven collaborative leader. I believe that we need to work together to bring electeds together. I ran on that platform in 2019 and I'm still there. It would be an honor to continue to serve you on the commission.
Thank you. Thank you all. Dave Bryant and Kristin Ang are candidates for Port of Tacoma position 5. Jeannette Twitty, who declined to participate, and Deanna Keller are candidates for Port of Tacoma position 3. The election is Tuesday, November 7th. Your ballot in its signed envelope must be in a drop box or postmarked by 8 p.m. on that date. Early voting is welcome. I thank the candidates for being here, TV Tacoma for presenting these forums, and you for watching and becoming an educated voter. We've also done forums for the Tacoma City Council, Tacoma School Board, and Metro Parks. Now, having become an educated voter, please don't forget to vote.